Hello to our NARST colleagues. This is Peter Okebukola from Lagos State University, Nigeria, Africa Center of Excellence for Innovative and Transformative STEM Education. We went to be in Portland, Oregon with members of my team, but unfortunately, owing to the coronavirus pandemic, NARST 2020 has been shifted. But we have not shifted the presentation of our paper. So here we go with a paper which I'm sure you're going to find interesting. The title of our presentation is Culture, Context, and Scientific Explanations by Biology Students, an African Case Study. And we, the authors, are Peter Okebukola, that's myself, the lead, Tunde Owolabi, Michael Ahove, and Hakim Akintoye, all of the Africa Center of Excellence for Innovative and Transformative STEM Education of Lagos State University, Lagos, Nigeria, as I mentioned in the introduction. As you can see from our program, our presider is Michael Ahove of our university, and these are the authors, the researchers that I mentioned earlier. So what is the problem? We found that Nigerian students, African students are finding some difficulty with explaining scientific concepts. The results of school and public examinations are pointing to the fact that they are declining in their ability to explain scientific phenomena. Of course, they are good in defining, define simple machine, they can do that. Define reproduction or define the mole in chemistry, they're able to do that. They're able also to list the factors responsible for germination, they're able to do that. But they are weak relative to these other behaviors in explaining. So if you look at the scores in school and public examinations, where all these attributes are required, you find that our students are weak in explaining. Let's look at a typical examination question. Define photosynthesis. Our students are able to define photosynthesis is this. They're able to list the conditions, but when it comes to explaining, for instance, this is explain why photosynthesis is important for life life on Earth. They are not able to perform well in this. They're able to do well in the other tasks. We speculate that underlining this, the weakness in explanation of scientific concepts, are some socio-cultural factors. So the object of our study was to unearth or unveil some of these socio-cultural factors and see how they impact on explanations of biological phenomena. And then we sought out to see how such factors can be harnessed for improving performance for students on tasks that require explanations in biology. Now we anchor our theory base of this study of Vygotsky's social constructivism, where Vygotsky in 1962 is positing that social interaction and culture influence or impact on learning. In this case, biology. So how did we proceed? It was a case study of two schools and mixed methods. We collected qualitative and quantitative data, and our study spanned a period of 9 months, almost the whole academic session. We had two schools participating, both located in the southwestern part of Nigeria. One, a very large public school owned by government, where the lead author, that's Peter Okebukola, myself, was the chairman board of governors, and happened when this time offer teaching service in biology. The students enrolled in the two schools have a broad spectrum of cultural backgrounds in terms of language, We had Hausas, Igbos, Yorubas. These are languages in Nigeria. Religious affiliations, Muslims, Christians, and others. And socio-economic status, the high, the low, the medium, and some of them were were resident in rural areas and others in urban. There were 218 students in total. This is the mean age, and they were all enrolled in senior secondary biology. This would be like equivalent of grade 11 in the US course. How did we proceed? Over the 9-month period, every week, because in this course they had biology timetabled, so 90 minutes of biology class time were spent, classroom instruction, and alternating with laboratory work every other week. The topics that were covered by the biology teachers in the two schools were cells and molecules of life, diversity of organisms, Mendelian inheritance, ecology, looking at organisms and environment, plant and animal physiology, applied ecology, and biotechnology. So over the 9-month period, all these topics were taught. So what then happened by way of digging deep into the procedure? Every 2 weeks, a test was administered on the students. And they had a component, we're looking at how they were explaining biological phenomena. So we had a component which required them to explain a biological phenomenon or a process. When the answer scripts were collected, they were handed out to graders who were trained in looking out for these rubrics, these 6 rubrics. One is articulation of causal claims. You're claiming that this is that. So how have you articulated it? Then the use of appropriate and sufficient evidence to support these claims, and the use of reasoning that draws on scientific principles to explicitly link the evidence to the claim. The 4th one is the accuracy of reasoning, and the 5th is application of appropriate scientific principles, and the last, that's the 6th criteria, is the sequence. That would be in the correct sequence. These were awarded marks, and each answer script was marked and then returned to the students. As we're going on, the teachers noted the socio-cultural attributes coloring each of the explanations. And there were follow-up reviews by our 5-person research team. We then aggregated the 5 socio-cultural attributes of the explanations. And what are these? These are the language, then the habitat, that is where the students stay predominantly, then the religious orientation, the socio-economic status, and then the gender. Next thing you will want to ask is, what were our findings? Our findings show that for language, this played a very significant role in the explanations that the students offered. About 43% of them were influenced by a degree of fluency in the language of writing the explanation. Of course, we asked them to explain in English. Quite a number of them were not too proficient in the use of in writing prose in English. So this socio-cultural variable impeded their being able to narrate the explanations. And they could, of course, verbally narrate, but in writing down the explanations, there was some difficulty. And in school and public examinations, they are not going to be inviting the students one by one to say, how do you explain photosynthesis, or how do you explain the causative organism for a particular disease? You have to trust the student to write. You have to demand that the student will write. So there was some challenge with the language. The second variable that we found, student habitat. Now, where students spends most of his or her time outside school, we found to be a major determinant of the explanation that he or she gave. Now, this was quite impactful on the ecological concepts. We found that the students who lived in the riverine areas were quite copious in how they explain relative to those who lived in the Sudan or Sahel savannah areas. What about religious orientations, economic status, and gender? Now, we found that religion played a major role in the genetics part of the content that was delivered during the 9-month period. Explanations relating to sex-linked characters, albinism, human diseases were found to be largely colored by religious orientation. For instance, the coronavirus is ravaging. Quite a lot of the people, hold the view that, it's on account of some sins that some people have committed that we're having coronavirus here and there. Well, that's not to say that the schooling community holds the view, but that is pervasive. Religious orientation is quite a major variable, socio-cultural variable that impacts the explanation of our students. We didn't find any difference, any impact of socio-economic status and gender. It wasn't discriminatory in the explanations that our students gave. So, what conclusion can we draw? Now, we draw a simple conclusion that science teachers, we should look beyond the traditional variables in the desire to explain students' performance, in explaining concepts, in explaining phenomena. You should look towards language, look towards religious orientation, and the rest. So, socio-cultural variables should be factored into the quest for us to improve students' ability to explain biological concepts. In other words, if you want our biology students or science students to be able to explain, we've got to help them in improving their language. The must of remediation for their language. We have to, on the religious front, we need to let them know that religion, in a number of instances, in explaining scientific phenomena, there are clashes. But we let them understand that we need to draw a line between religion and science and the other variables that were implicated in this study. So, I'd like to thank you. Of course, we are not able to ask all questions, but please feel free to email me, Okebukola@yahoo.com, and if you require the full paper, we'll be very, very glad to send that to you. Once again, keep safe, social distancing, wash your hands, and we'll see you NARST 2021. Bye.